Okay, thank you for joining us on our first episode. These are going to be lessons dedicated to you. We're going to take your comments and we're going to answer them on next week's episode. So be sure, if you have any questions about this week's episode, this video that you're watching, towards the end, leave a comment, subscribe, like, whatever you'd like to do. And if you leave a comment, we will respond to that comment on next week's episode. Towards the end of the video, we're going to allocate about 10 to 15 minutes, and we're going to discuss or answer or attempt to answer some of your questions. Also, if you disagree, if you have your own perspectives, your own opinions, you're more than welcome to share it at the bottom. We're here to try to talk about certain aspects of our existence that perhaps have not been discussed or analyzed from this perspective. Now, today's topic is going to be discussing the subconscious, or some would say the unconscious mind. You recall when we went to school, our teacher told us that we can only use 10% of our brain. Now, that wasn't an attempt by our instructor to call us stupid. Instead, it was an attempt to explain what Carl Jung explains very well in his book, The Undiscovered Self, which, I don't make money selling you this book, but I would definitely recommend that you go on Amazon. It's a $10 book. It's a little deep and dense, so, reading it once, twice, maybe even 3 times, taking notes would truly help. And we're going to discuss what Carl Jung calls the unconscious mind. Now, he has 3 different aspects, and this video is not going to be dedicated to Carl Jung, although he is, in my belief, someone who was guided by God and used his theological beliefs and applied it to his area of study, which today is very important. Many people who have woken up, who have escaped certain unconscious tendencies and brought them to light, have realized that, wow, truly we are products of our own environment. And after reading Carl Jung's The Undiscovered Self, they find it very easy to escape who they originally thought they were, or the tendencies which they were unconscious of, and now they're completely different human beings. Now, back to our instructor, who was not calling us stupid, but what they were attempting, these instructors during our middle school and early high school times, they were attempting to explain this unconscious realm of our reality. Now, many people, when you ask them, what is the unconscious mind? They would tell you it is things which you are unaware about yourself. And the disagreement I have with Carl Jung, or with his instructor, Sigmund Freud, is that in order for you to discover the unconscious mind, I don't believe you can sit with a therapist, a psychologist, and explain to him certain things that unfolded in your early childhood, okay? And then the psychologist, such as Carl Jung, would be able to tell you, well, you're suffering from the mother syndrome, I don't know what he calls it, the father syndrome, okay? You're this way because your father used to do this, that, and the third. Now, just to give you a quick recap, Sigmund Freud, who was Carl Jung's instructor, he would get a bunch of young women who had this tendency to creep out and scream, okay, whenever a man approached them. Okay? And when he sat with these women and he would talk to them and have them just open up and explain to them, he actually found out that these women were abused by their fathers sexually. Okay? And then he understood that Freud, of course, not Jung, but Freud understood that a lot of our subconscious and a lot of our conscious is really just sexual frustration, urges and desires that we have from the sexual energy, okay, that we're not able to act on. So he's a little bit of a creep, in my opinion, and even Jung would abstain from telling Freud his dreams, because Jung would fear that Freud would always bring it back to, somehow, some way, Jung's repressed sexual desires. But Jung, when he differed with Freud, he actually introduced something called the collective consciousness. And he analyzed and drew a map, which I will leave in the comment section, of the conscious and subconscious mind. He explained what the shadow is. He explained what the ego is. But let us explain our belief of the subconscious mind aside from the Jungian and Freud belief system or theories of analyzing the psyche, and let us analyze it with some type of Quranic verses, specifically chapter 19 of the Quran, chapter Mary. Okay, so before we jump directly into the Quran, I'd like to help you understand that life, the reason you are the creation that God told the angels and the jinn to bow down to, is because actually when you analyze the pyramid of life, okay, and I'm not going to draw a bunch of levels, but let's say these are ants, okay, and these are lions, and this is man, or human, okay? And the reason you're on top of this pyramid is not because you have the numbers. It's not because you have the strength, the brute strength. It's actually because you have something that both these lack, and that is your intellect, okay? So this is the mind, okay? Now, of course, these animals, including plants, even if we put plants down here, they have a consciousness. Do not be fooled. These are not mindless creatures. No, they have, but you stand on top because of your ability to do one thing. And this is discussed in the second chapter of the Quran, but it's not Surah Al-Baqarah. It's actually Al-Qalam, the pen, which is somewhere in the 50s. Of course, the compilation of the book is not the way it came down, so when I refer to it as the second chapter, it's not the second chapter in the physical book that's collecting dust on our shelves at home. It is the second chapter to come down to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And that is called Al-Qalam, the pen. Okay? The pen. Al-Qalam. That chapter discusses that God taught human what he didn't know. And he taught him the use of the pen. The pen. And that's why it's called Al-Qalam. Okay? So God taught us how to use a pen. And the pen is a tool, it's stronger than any weapon in the face of this earth, because it allows you to take something outside of your mind, which no one has access to, and put it down, draw it, okay? You might have an imagination, and if you go into the caves, into Egypt's pyramids, you'll see that there's many drawings, okay? And these drawings are depicting the imagination of people, perhaps even the dreams of people. But now you have the pen, okay, that's able to write down certain ideas, a bunch of words, and when you're reading them, you're able to have this imagination of what you're reading. And because you are able to use the pen, no other animal, no other creature, no other living organism is able to use the pen. And that is what distinguishes you from the rest of the creation. Yes, you can find apes or monkeys or gorillas, okay, that have been trained in seclusion that can barely use a pen or perhaps point at something, but that's nothing close to the human. So the beauty and the miracle of the human is that he's able to take what's inside his brain and put it on a drawing board, or write a book, or draw an image. Okay? Okay. So now we're going to discuss chapter 19, okay, as found in the book Collecting Dust on Our Shelves, okay? And we're going to discuss Surat Maryam, the chapter of Mary, okay? So, Surah Maryam, chapter 19, Mary. Peace and blessings be upon Mary. Okay. Interesting here. The chapter begins by referring and recalling dhikru, remembering the mercy of God that he had on his servant Zachariah. And what happened with Zachariah? This is about to get, in my opinion, this is very interesting. These few verses, the beginning verses of Surah Maryam, are mesmerizing to me. But anyways, God begins by saying, let us recall the mercy that I had on my servant Zachariah when he called out to God while he was away, hidden from the rest of the people. Okay, we're not talking about right now I make a prayer in front of you. No. Secluded. And this we're going to get back to. The word secluded. The word isolated. And God emphasized this word. So when Zachariah called on to his Lord while he was secluded, while he was away, while he was away from his people, you know what Zachariah told God? He told God that, you know what, God? My bones are getting weak. And my hair is getting gray. But I have not lost any hope in my prayer to you. What is he saying? What is Zechariah? If you remember the story of Zechariah, he's been praying to his Lord this whole time. Oh my Lord, give me a son. Oh my Lord, give me a son. Oh my Lord, give me a son. As you know, Father, the man, he wants a son. So he's been praying and praying and praying to God up until he gets to this point. He tells God, you know, God, my bones are getting weak and my hair is getting gray, but I have not lost faith in you. Zachariah's being a smartass, okay? Zachariah is being a smart ass. Now, I say that because we're English-speaking people and we live in the 21st century and we have certain things happening. Of course, I have all the respect for Zachariah and his son, John the Baptist, Yahya, but I'm trying to deliver the idea here. So please, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But watch how I'm going to explain why Zachariah is being a smarty. Zachariah tells his Lord that I have not lost any doubt in this prayer, in this supplication to you. Even though I'm getting old. And you know when you're getting old, it's very difficult to get a child. So because he made this type of prayer, you know what God does? God finally answers Zechariah. Earlier, Zechariah tells God, give me a son, no answer. Give me a son, no answer. Please give me a son, no answer. Now, it's almost as if he's challenging God. You know, God, bones are getting weak, hair is getting gray, and I haven't lost any hope in you. So now God tells him, oh, Zechariah, we give you good tidings of a son to come named Yahya. We haven't created any human like Yahya. We haven't even given him anyone that name. Guess what Zechariah says? A second ago, Zechariah says, my bones are in my hair and I have not lost any hope. Zechariah starts to have doubt. Zechariah, after God answers, now what? Now Zechariah has doubt. What happened, Zach? Second ago, I'm not going to lose any, I haven't lost any hope. Now God answers you and gives you what you've been praying for. And you start to have doubt. You know what kind of doubt he has? He tells God, but my Lord, how can I have a son when my wife is barren? She's old. What's Zachariah using now? He's using his mind, his logic, his conscious mind. Because his conscious mind has told him that when you get old, very difficult to have a child. When your wife is barren, very difficult to have a child. But now, all of a sudden, he has doubt. Doubt stemming from the conscious mind. Because now God has answered him, and all of a sudden he's consciously thinking about, but wait a minute, how is it possible? Logically, how can I have a son, my Lord? Mukhayyid, didn't you just say that you do not have any doubt in the supplication you're making to God? Even though you acknowledge that you are getting old, now you have doubt after God answers you because you are old. Of course, God tells Zachariah, we can do what we want to do. Don't forget, you once were nothing, and we brought you to life. What do you think Zachariah said after this? You'd think because God put him in check, God took something out of Zachariah's subconscious mind. He was not conscious that he had doubt. He made the claim that I have not lost hope. I have no doubt that you're going to answer me. And God exposed this prayer to Zachariah by answering him and giving him what he wants. Now God has brought from the subconscious realm of Zachariah's brain into the conscious realm his true doubt, which Zachariah was not aware of, to the point where, again, Zachariah said, I have not lost any hope, even though he was conscious that he was old. Now, all of a sudden, God answers him, and now you have a bunch of doubt stemming from the same conscious realization of being old. Nothing changed here, except God took the lack of true belief, the real belief that Zachariah had in God, that he thought he had in God. God took it out of the subconscious mind of Zachariah and put it into the conscious mind. And now, all of a sudden, like this didn't ever happen, Zachariah has doubt. And God responds to him using logic, telling him, I, God, can do as I please. Kun fayakun, as we've heard before. Come on, Zach. You used to be nothing. So I can do it. You would think that now Zachariah's like, oh, sorry, I forgot who I'm talking to. I'm talking to God here. How could I have any doubt in God? No. Zachariah has the audacity to ask God for proof. Oh God, Zachariah tells God, oh God, give me a sign so that my heart is put at ease. Give me a sign, God, I know you can do everything, but give me a small sign. My heart is all of a sudden excited and you brought something. All of a sudden, Zachariah not only disbelieves, but he's requesting proof from the Creator who's answered him. He's answered the prayer after Zachariah has said, I've not lost hope. All of a sudden, it seems as if Zachariah was unconscious of his true strength when it comes to the belief in God. And what truly happened was that God had to bring this out of Zachariah at the right time. if God would have answered your prayer when you wanted to, he would have never exposed what is in your subconscious. So we're getting there. But now you see that Zachariah seems to have doubt all of a sudden. And he was unaware that he had this doubt to the point where he had the audacity to say, I have not lost any hope in you. Now after God has answered him and explained to him after Zachariah said, but how? How can I have a son and my wife is of old age barren? Now Zachariah has the audacity to say, God, give me a sign because I want to put my heart at ease. Okay? Give me a sign so I can put my heart at ease. Okay? All right. So now, I'm going to ask you a question. What is the sign that God gave Zachariah? What is the sign that God gave Zachariah? Because God's merciful, man. He's not going to leave Zachariah hanging. He knows. He's trying to teach Zachariah something. He's trying to teach you and I something. So he tells Zachariah, your sign is that you will not speak to anyone for 3 nights consecutively. Of course, nights, because during the day, Zachariah has to work. But wait a minute. Are you scratching your head like I'm scratching my head? You know, got all the respect for God. But what kind of sign is this? Am I right or am I wrong? What kind of sign is this that I'm not going to, do not speak to anyone for 3 nights? And today, the biggest misconception within Christianity about this story, and respectfully, within Islam, is that God showed Zachariah that this was going to happen. Because now Zachariah, he tried to speak, but he was unable to speak. Which is false. This was not God taking Zachariah's ability to speak away from him, but commanding Zachariah to refrain from speaking for 3 nights. But what kind of sign is this? So now I want to distinguish, there's 2 aspects to this we're going to discuss. Number 1, the misconception that God removed Zachariah's ability to speak for 3 nights, which is not the case. Instead, God instructed Zachariah to refrain from speaking to anyone for 3 nights, and that is his proof. So 1, Zachariah was still able physically to speak, but the sign, the proof, God told Zachariah, you will see the proof if you don't speak to anyone for 3 nights. That's the first aspect. So you have to understand this misconception that I'm bringing into light. That it is not that Zachariah was unable to speak, but he was commanded not to speak. Second aspect is, what kind of sign is this? What does refraining from speaking have to do with proof about doubt stemming from logic, meaning my wife is getting old, now I have doubt, give me proof, and now we're going to give you the proof, but the proof is within you. The proof is within you, O Zachariah. Remember? Remember how you said earlier, I have not lost any doubt. So there was something within. I'm going to give you the proof. But the proof is within you. You know where it sits? It sits in your subconscious, O Zachariah. How can you access the subconscious? God has given us a method to access the subconscious whenever we have doubt. Whenever our logic interferes with our faith, the subconscious will allow us to extract the reality, the truth that is hidden. Why do you think whenever you read about a prophet. He is secluded. Moses went to the bush, the burning bush, and told his family, stay here. Muhammad was in the cave. Peace and blessings be upon both of them. Zachariah away from the people. Why? Is being secluded and being isolated away from noise. Some of you are engineers. We have this concept called noise. Okay? And noise is simple. You have a signal. Let's call this the red light coming into your human eye. Okay? Excuse my art skills. Okay? And this is just a red light. A traffic light. Again, I am not an artist, so please bear with me. So this is the frequency coming. So as you know, light hits your eye, and that's how you're able to comprehend it or observe it. Now, what would noise be? This is the come on, engineer, transmitter. This is the frequency. It's the signal. And this is the okay? Where's the noise? Where's the noise here? The noise is light coming from the sun, okay? And it's so bright, let's put it this way, okay? Again, don't forget, we not everybody's an engineer, so we got to make this really simple, okay? And this light is also interfering with this signal. And now, instead of seeing a pure red signal, you see kind of a fading away signal. So the noise needs to be taken away for you to be able to see the true signal. Okay? Now, to be very simple here, you can also use like sound. When you have a sound, okay, this is the ear, okay? This is the ear and this is the radio. And now there's no sound happening in the room. You're just playing a radio, and then all of a sudden I come into the room and I start yelling. Ah! It interferes with that signal. In order for you to capture the true signal, the true sound, the true image, the true thought, you need to remove the noise. In order to remove noise, you must understand one thing. You cannot have control over everything. So sometimes to remove yourself, especially when you're trying to analyze something within you, you're not trying to analyze something outside of you, okay? You're trying to analyze something within you. And the noise is coming from all areas from outside. You're not going to be able to stop everybody from doing what they got to do and all the noise happening outside of you externally. But what you can do is remove yourself from this circle where all the noise is coming and isolate yourself, let's say in a room. Again, don't judge me. Okay, that's you, isolated. Now you have filtered away the noise, and now you're able to get the true signal of the subconscious. Because the subconscious, as Jung and Freud and many psychologists explain, is constantly trying to send you messages in dreams and other areas. You need to filter out the noise. So when God tells Zachariah, refrain from speaking to anyone for 3 nights, he's telling him, the answer is within you. How, and this doubt, and all this other nonsense. Because Zachariah, you're a good servant to me. And I'm answering you now. And just a second ago you said you had no doubt. So the answer is within you. So Zachariah, kharaja min al-mihrab, this is what's said in the Quran, meaning he after 3 days, he left from, let's call it the temple. Okay? Let's call it the masjid. Let's call it the church, al-mihrab. Okay? But it's basically where people go to confine and remain and seclude themselves and meditate. Okay? So then it says he left the mihrab and he signaled to his people. He told his people, Praise your Lord, glorify your Lord from the morning to the evening. What does that mean? That means Zachariah finally saw the proof. What's the proof? What did he see? That's for Zachariah, not for me and you. What's for me and you is to understand that God is trying to tell us, be careful, number one, when you think you have no doubt. Be careful. And sometimes I'm not going to answer you as God. I'm not going to answer you because now you're going to be filled with doubt. Because now I'm going to bring something out of your subconscious mind, which you claim as faith, and now I'm going to bring faith right into your conscious reality, and you're going to see you really don't believe. So relax. And if that does happen to you, I'm going to give you a method. Because how many times you want proof? Isolate yourself, seclude yourself. I know you're not convinced. This is why we have the very following verses talking about Mary. Mary, did you forget? It's the chapter of Mary. Of course, their family. But Mary in the Quran, she went all the way away from the people. Here's the people. Okay, 1 guy, 2 guy, 3 women, 4 women. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, and here's Mary. She went away from the people. Another indication, such as Zachariah, such as Moses, such as Muhammad, and many others, peace and blessings be upon them. Remove yourself from the noise, from the people. And she started doing what? Praying to God. Praying to God. Supplicating her Lord during the nighttime. So God sent an angel in the form of a man, Gabriel, who appeared before Mary, and Mary was a little frightened. But he told Mary, do not fear. I am from the Spirit of God. I'm here to tell you something. What is it that you want to tell me? You're going to have a son. Huh? Mary said, huh? I'm going to have a son. How can I have a son and no man has touched me? How can I have a son and no man has touched me? She's right, isn't she? Don't we study biology? So Gabriel tells her, God can do as he pleases. What do you think? You think Mary was convinced? Do you know what God instructed Mary to do? Refrain from speaking to anyone for 1 night. Now, not to be sexist and all these other things, I believe the difference between 3 nights and 1 night is an indication why the woman has the ability to believe easier than the man. The man is stubborn. The woman, not so much. She's open to the ideas, especially when they come from her Lord. So it only required 1 night of isolation and not speaking to anyone. This story within chapter Mary is telling us that these 2 individuals, Mary and Zachariah, when they were confronted by God or by the messenger of God, being Gabriel, that they had doubt. You and me, we tell ourselves, bro, if Gabriel came down to me, I don't care what Gabriel tells me, I wouldn't have any doubt. But we do recall our prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, when Gabriel came to him and told him to read in the name of his Lord. That when he ran back to his wife Khadijah, he basically had a lot of doubt. A lot of doubt. And when you read chapter 2 of the Quran, Surah Al-Qalam, God tells him, وَمَا أَنْتَ بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ بِمَجْنُونَ. You are not by the grace and by the favor of your Lord which he has bestowed upon you, O Muhammad, going crazy. Because Muhammad started thinking he's going crazy. Did I really hear someone in the cave? Of course, this was the early phases of his prophethood. So now we're going to discuss how can you bring something out of your subconscious. it is not, and this is where I disagree, it is not by these methods of sitting with an individual who has studied Freud and Jung and other psychologists and opening up to them. Because if you recall, there's something called logics, okay, or logic. And I understand many of you think you understand logic, but it's not the way you understand it. Logic is kind of what we call gates, okay? Gates. And you can set up a bunch of these gates, and this will be a 0, or that will be a -1 if we connect 2 of these circles, okay? Let's do it this way. These are logic gates, okay? That's what that equals. And then if I go here, and if I go here, sorry, okay, this will be 1. These are logic gates, and in engineering you have to take logic gates, and again, for those engineers who, I know you understand there's NOR gates and XOR gates and OR gates, okay, but we can't get into that with everybody, so we're just going to simplify it with my beautiful drawing, okay? But these are logic gates, and they give you true values. Really, we don't have -1 in engineering, we only have 1s and 0s, but what you understand is you can set up a bunch of different methods to get a true or a false value. And what I'm trying to propose to you is that just by sitting with somebody and opening up to them, and then they say, oh, the reason you're like that is because your father, yeah, when he was young, he did this one thing to you, and then you're like, whoa, that is what it is. That's not necessarily the answer, okay? It can't be the answer, because there's many other things you have not told that psychologist, which if you had told him, if you did tell him, he probably would have referred to that, and you would have agreed with him that is the reason you are why you are the way you are, okay? But let us not forget that when you sit with a psychologist and you start explaining to him all these things, how can we say that this is coming from your subconscious mind? If you were subconscious of this, you wouldn't be able to consciously recall them. Now, I understand Freud explains that there are some aspects of the subconscious which are really conscious memories suppressed and forgotten, but that doesn't mean they're subconscious. Subconscious, okay, means you're not aware of it. It can't be something you've observed and forgotten about, because, yes, it's hiding, and that's where they say it's hiding in the subconscious. It's not the subconscious. It's still the conscious, and you're still able to recall it and explain to the psychologist, hey, this happened when I was young. Oh yeah, I do remember that. That's the conscious part. The true subconscious only comes when you look deep within yourself. How can you, and many of you would agree with this, but now the misconception is, how do I do that? Do I sit and just analyze myself? Do I write down a bunch of stuff? You seclude yourself as a man for 3 nights. No phone. No sitting with friends. You sit in a damn dark room or in your car. I don't know what the hell you're up to. But you don't speak to anyone for 3 nights. You don't get on the phone. You don't read a book. You don't do none of that. And you live with those thoughts. And you understand what kind of patterns are happening in your mind. And you start questioning after 6 hours, what the heck am I talking about in here? And then the proof would come to you, and you would literally come out a new person after fasting for 3 nights. Many of you know the benefits of fasting in Ramadan, spiritually and physically. I promise you, fasting on a mental, okay, in the mental world, and that's not contemplating, not communicating, that is going to enlighten you and bring something out of your subconscious. So, let's summarize what we discussed. Okay? So we discussed that the subconscious, okay, can be accessed through isolation. And we used the chapter of Mary, which discussed Zach Zachariah, and Mary, or Maryam, okay, these two individuals who, when they questioned how, by using their logic, Zach said, how can I have a son and my wife is of old age? Mary said, how can I have a son and no man has touched me? That their answer was deep within themselves. They understood that God can do as He wills. But their logic kicked in. How can I have a son? No man has touched me. How can I have a son? My wife is of old age. Logically, that doesn't make sense. Remember, I'm God. Don't try to use your logic against me. Because who used logic? Remember our buddy Iblis, Shaitan? When Satan was told, bow down to Adam, bow down all the creations in the heavens, Satan said no. Why did he say no? Because he used his logic. Smart guy. Satan's a smart guy. I'm trying to explain to you, the way we learned our religion is kind of indoctrination in a way. Satan is a smart guy. Like, I agree with Satan. I know, sounds weird, isn't it? I'll explain it to you. I'll explain it to you using your world, okay? You have a job. You're an engineer, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're pursuing that, okay? So here's you, 12 years at Ford, or GM, or Corewell Health, okay, wherever your great job is, okay? And you've been working there for 12 years, okay? 12 years, look at you. Employee of the month, every single month, for 12 years. You're really kicking ass here. And then, on the 12th year anniversary, in comes an intern. Here's a little short guy. Look how puny he is. 0 years. Okay? 0 years, a little puny guy. And you know what your boss tells you? You know what your boss... Here's your boss. Okay? He's taller. Hey. You know what your boss tells you with his beautiful hair? He tells you, this is now your boss. And I want you to take from him. And on top of that, I'm going to honor him by paying him $140,000. You're still at $118,000. After 12 years. He just started, 140 years. Same experience. I'm sorry, same education. Experience, you have more experience. You've proven yourself for 12 years. In comes this guy. What are you going to say? What's the logical thing to say here? You're going to look at your boss and say, excuse me, what? You want me to listen to this guy who has no experience? And on top of that, you're paying him more? He's your boss. Shouldn't you just listen without question? Your logic is going to kick in. I've been working for you. I've been working for you this whole time. Why are you now telling me to listen to this new guy? I'm 12 years experienced. He's 0 years experienced. Now let's flip the table. Satan tells God, I'm not going to bow down to Adam. You created Adam from dirt, clay. And you created me from fire. The first form of racism, by the way. I'm white and he's black. I'm Asian, he's Hispanic. I'm Arab, I'm Muslim, he's Christian. Therefore, God loves me more and I'm better. This is all satanic thinking. So Satan used logic when he when he didn't bow down, but more than not bowing down to us, he basically disobeyed God. And he disobeyed God using logic. Just explain it to me. Why should I bow down to Adam? I've been praying to you. I've been doing everything you've asked me to do. I've never had any doubt in you. So then Satan tells God to send him down with man. With man. Okay? So every man has within him Satan, And Satan's method of deception is what? It's logic. Like you would say, how could that be? God put us on top because of our logic. God allowed us to create the lights and the movie and the astronauts and all this other stuff. Our logic has served the purpose. No, it has not. Your logic has only moved you and pulled you away from belief in God. And that is Satan's objective here. Satan tells God, send me down with this creation of yours, and I will show you, God, how they won't even be thankful. So one of the worst things you can do is not even be thankful. And Satan is buried deep within the conscious mind, not the subconscious mind. It is your conscious mind that is able to logically think. You know, there's a pattern happening now. You see these people like Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Bill Gates. If you go to these people and you ask Trump, you go to these people, you ask them, do you believe in God? They say no. Do they have logic? Of course they have logic. Sometimes more than me and you. They read more than me and you too. Now, I'm not telling you be stupid. I'm trying to show you how the subconscious mind, in that exists the reality. But God has limited you to your conscious, limited 10%, okay? And within this conscious, Satan is constantly talking. Don't do this, don't do this, do this, do this. I mean, when you hear bad thoughts, they're in the conscious realm. In order to understand what God truly wants from you, seclude yourself, isolate yourself, and filter out the noise. Then on the subconscious level, you will be able to bring into fruition, to bring into the light what God is telling you. To conclude, I want you to research how many mathematical formulas, how many geniuses, okay, and I don't believe in this word genius, but how many geniuses were inspired or solved their formulas, which today we can engineer technology with, that you believe is so advanced, came from dreams and came from, aspects where they were thinking about it consciously, but they never got the answer. It is only when they were not thinking about it that the idea came to them. Whether it was in a dream while they were not conscious, boom, a dream came, they woke up, they said, whoa. Whether they were walking one day and they saw something and the imagination of the subconscious kicked in and said, hey, by the way, Galileo, see what those two ladies are doing down there? So now we have discussed our perspective of the subconscious, and we will leave it at that because we have a lot of topics we don't want to overwhelm. So let us know if you have a question, if you disagree with us, if you have opinions, share them in the comment section, and let us have a conversation about that during next week's episode. But I think if you truly have the power, and many of you, respectfully, you will not have enough power to isolate yourself for 3 nights. It just won't happen, with all due respect. So, for those who will attempt, all I'm asking of you, okay, is after you finish your 3 nights or 1 night, from 5 p.m. all the way up until 10, and then you can get in bed. But try to actively be sitting, standing, don't lay down because you're just going to fall asleep. After 3 nights, please come back, or 1 night if you're a female, please come back and share your experience. And if I were you, I would take notes before you start this journey, just for 5 minutes, take notes of what you're thinking about, questions, and then after 3 days or 3 nights, I should say, take or analyze those notes and then take new notes, and you would be amazed. And if everybody just did this, it's like the Muslims trying to tell the non-Muslims you need to fast because it has so much benefits, and the non-Muslims like, I can't do it. 5 o'clock came, I got hungry. we look at him like, technically you could do it, you just don't have enough willpower. So this is going to be the conclusion of the chapter of Mary, subconscious, and how God gives us a method, being isolation and refraining from speaking in order to access our subconscious. Thank you again for joining us.